So, what do you do when you have to board a cruise ship on the same day Rogue One hits theaters? Find the nearest theater when you hit your first destination. The Force is strong with this one. By the way, I'm on a cruise ship. It's been fun. So even though I'm on my holiday cruise, I'm still making this review because there's so much to talk about, and I just love you guys. I'm doing this for you because I love you. Love you. So, we all knew that ever since Disney purchased their rights to the Star Wars franchise, they were just gonna milk every creative aspect from this wonderful, beloved franchise. Merchandising, theme park expansions, and of course, movies. But I'm not just gonna stick to episodic movies, no. We're gonna get little in-between movies like The Adventures of Young Han Solo. Yay!
Not to say we don't welcome the idea. After all, we got an expansion to Episode 2, which was the Clone Wars animated series, which turned out to be pretty good. I'll admit, though, I wasn't too thrilled with how they handled Episode 7, which in my opinion was not that good. And with how the trailers looked for this one, I was looking forward to the action, but not so much for our leading lady.
This is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel.
Well, aren't you feisty?
That means you're gonna be another Mary Sue who can do no wrong, right? Well, let me just shut up and review this movie. What's it about?
Rogue One takes place a few years after Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, where the Director of Advanced Weapons Research, or San Krennic, seeks to force his former colleague, Galen Erso, back to the Empire to work on their deadliest project ever. Galen gives himself up in order for his daughter, Jyn Erso, to run away freely in the care of their friend and comrade, Saw Gerrera. Many years later, the Rebel Alliance hunts down Jyn in order to use her in an attempt to find her father through the friendship she had with Saw. With the help of her comrades, Cassian Andor, K2SO, I'm going to mispronounce your name, Shiro and Boz, and Bodhi Rook, they set out on a quest to find Jin's father and prevent the new weapon from being used.
Haters are gonna hate, but in order for me to properly talk about Rogue One, I need to rank how I see the Star Wars films from best to worst and show you where I would put Rogue One.
Naturally, the best being The Empire Strikes Back, and the worst being, in my opinion, The Force Awakens. The record has already been broken many times with how many times people have said it is a gigantic repeat of Episode 4 and 6, with shoved-in nostalgic references and dull new characters like Mary Sue Ray. Yeah, I did not like her at all. When it comes to Rogue One, however, dare I say it? Here's where I'd put it. Yeah! It's that good! Not only was I engaged the whole time, but the cinematography was brilliant, most of the characters were interesting, and the story was dark, but in a different perspective, which made it really good. It really showed not only how serious the Empire was, but it gave a face to those who risked everything to stop them.
So you mean to tell me that this is a Star Wars movie with no major lightsaber battles, no cheesy characters that are written poorly, and no cutesy robots to mark it off from? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love R2-D2 and BB-8, but K2, friggin' love that robot, love him! I want a figurine of him, because K2SO, love him. You know I can, like, kick these guys' butts, and I got, like, all these skills and programs to protect you guys, but no, you just want me to watch the ship, fine, whatever. You can keep your R2-D2s and BB-8s, C-3POs, give me K2SO any day, hello. I'm just gonna say this before we get into spoiler territory. I truly believe that Rogue One, a Star Wars story, is one of the best Star Wars movies I've seen in a while. It is a Star Wars movie that didn't have to rely on tropes or traditional gimmicks in order to be a true Star Wars movie. It just had to be a good movie with great characters. This movie had to have an interesting enough story with good characters to carry it out to prove that it needed to exist. Some would say it didn't have to exist. This is an in-between stories, but that's what they said about the Clone Wars series. It ties in everything that went down between Episode 3 to Episode 4 while answering a lot of questions about what it took for the rebels to get the blueprints to the Death Star, and why was the Death Star so easy to defeat in episode 4. So it answered a lot of those questions while giving us remarkable characters to carry out this concept that a lot of people said didn't need to be there, but I'm glad I saw this movie. It is a great story. This is a movie we highly recommend, but not just as a Star Wars movie, just a movie in general. And before we go further, spoiler warning.
Continue with the operation. You may fire when ready.
What?
Ooh, where do I begin? Well, in order for me to talk about Jyn Erso, I had to explain why I prefer her as a female lead compared to Rey.
One thing I'm hoping for in the episodes to come is an explanation as to why Rey was good at everything she did. Scrapping for parts in a dangerous environment is one thing because she had to learn how to survive on her own ever since she was abandoned. But learning how to fight back using Jedi mind control, fixing the Millennium Falcon and flying the damn thing, being fluent in Wookieese and robot lingo, and wielding a lightsaber back at an expert who just sliced up her male partner is just a bit too much to take in. I want some explanation as to how she could do that rather than accept her as a frickin' bland Mary Sue trope that the whole world deserves in a Star Wars film. Lest we forget Leia leading an entire rebel force against the Empire and even going as far as to choke Jabba the Hutt to death, let alone her mother claiming her planet back after it was taken over by the Empire. And are we seriously going to forget the awesome Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars?
But no, there are no strong female leads until Rey came into the Star Wars franchise, right? The hype was strong with this one, but not the Force.
With this in mind, I fear Jyn's character would be the same. The trailer portrays her as an arrogant, can-do, know-how woman who will be the real hero of the story. Then comes the month of May, where it was announced that they had to reshoot some scenes due to all the negative feedback the movie received. So when you watch the movie and all the trailers, you will not only notice a lot of scenes were taken out of the movie, but also Jyn's rebellious attitude toned down a lot. She wasn't a feisty soldier for the greater good, she was more of a burnt-out victim who was tired of watching those around her disappear. Her mother was killed, her father was captured, Saw Gerrera left her behind to fend for herself, and she saw many of her comrades die. She portrayed a different perspective as a Star Wars character who didn't want to be involved in the war anymore.
For a Star Wars movie, you have your typical good guys that need to fight and win against the bad guys who want to control everything, and the good guys have to stop them because they're the good guys. Unless you're Han Solo, who wants nothing to do with this war and just wants to live and cash in on everything. But you have Jyn and her perspective on how she sees this war, and how she's just so burned out and suffered enough that she just doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. She is tired. She wants to just avoid this war at all costs because she's had enough. And that is an interesting perspective that you don't really see in Star Wars. It's just the light side versus the dark side, good versus evil, but you have that in between, and there's Jyn, who's like, yes, I acknowledge the greater good, but I've given enough, I'm done, bye-bye. That to me is just an interesting perspective.
Soon after she's forced to find her father, she's more keen on fighting just to act upon her father's revenge. She doesn't really act on his revenge just for herself alone. Her father is actually the reason why the Death Star has that weak spot that leads to an easy victory in episode 4. So she takes a huge risk to track down the blueprints to make sure her father's plans and sacrifices don't go to waste.
If anything, I think the changes that they put in the movie was all around Jyn, because we don't want another Rey. We don't want another Mary Sue who has a can-do, know-how personality. That is exactly what we were seeing in the trailer, but it's not what we got in the movie. If the change was around her, I am all for it, because we want believable characters that we feel are real and relatable. Jyn, in my opinion, was all of that. She was believable, she felt real, and she felt like somebody I could understand.
We're witnessing how aggressive and direct the rebels were when it came to dragging her back into a war she wanted nothing to do with anymore, while witnessing a convincing reaction from her. We're so used to seeing Star Wars leads who want to fight for the greater good and make a positive change in the universe. Down with the Empire! We can win as long as we have hope! Jyn started off nothing like that, which to me is a nice change.
Whatever the changes may be, I think it was for the greater good, because Jyn Erso, in my opinion, is an amazing character to come out of the Star Wars universe. I mean, it's not like I respect her character so much that I went out and bought a Pop Funko figurine of her. No, I wouldn't do that just because I respect her or anything. See, even she agrees. No, I wouldn't do that, no. Are you a Mary Sue Jyn Erso? No. You're a badass character.
Now, as for the rest of the crew, they were a lot of fun. K2SO has officially become my favorite robot of all time. Past units have either been cute, like R2-D2 and BB-8, or comic relief like C-3PO. K2 is the first ever badass unit, while also being witty, charming, and interesting. It was very handy in regards to being a reprogrammed unit for the Empire, but his cheeky personality stole all of our hearts.
I also really like Shiro and Baze, and I am so sorry if I mispronounce their names again. I am just really terrible at pronouncing names. She's ashamed of me.
Shiro is a blind Jedi Guardian who still believes in the Force and everything it stands for, while Baze is a burned out mercenary who gave up on the Force and wants his friend to open his eyes. They were both likable characters who gave the others a great debate to think about with the Force, while being a deadly force towards the Stormtroopers. We never knew how epic a Kung Fu Jedi Master could look like, but damn, Shiro was awesome! One other thing we must point out in regards to Shiro is the Force itself. He is the embodiment of a true Jedi when it comes to their philosophy. He relies on the Force to guide him and lead him to the right path, even though he's blind. It reminds me of the scene in Episode 4 when Luke decided to use the Force to shoot the Death Star down. The Force gives you a different set of eyes to guide you, and Shiro is proof of that. Orson Krennic was portrayed as a really selfish officer for the Empire. He's going to use anyone and do everything he can to look good for the Emperor.
I can make weapons that can destroy planets. Notice me, Darth Vader senpai.
He's a character struggling to maintain his dignity in the Empire while getting frustrated when things go wrong. He knows what he wants and will do everything he can to get it. He also shows just how cutthroat the Empire can be when it comes to moving up in the ranks. He practically does all the work only to have Grand Moff Tarkin try to take all of the credit and control. It's a fascinating look inside the Empire and just how ruthless they are.
Speaking of ruthless, we have Darth Vader, voiced by... Yes!
Ever since the prequels, Vader's reputation as a villain was somewhat dented. Just that one scene of him shouting, "No!" makes you forget that he slaughtered baby Jedis. Don't look at that face. Is that the face of a baby killer? Yes it is.
No one can kill a Jedi.
Says the one who killed a lot of Jedi babies and his former master. Oh, Annie. My thoughts on Vader as a villain never really changed, and this movie solidified just how dangerous he was. That scene alone at the very end, when he was slaughtering numerous rebel soldiers to retrieve the blueprints, was nightmare-inducing. The movie ensured us all that Darth Vader was one merciless devil.
The rest of the characters were pretty good, but if I had to point out the weakest one, it'd have to be Cassian.
The character himself is a good one, a hardened rebel soldier who's been fighting against the Empire ever since he was small and will do anything he can to take them down. With all the pain and sorrow he's suffered through, he's become an emotionless fighter who doesn't need to explain his actions as long as the results are necessary towards winning. That's a good character and balance towards Jyn's character, but Diego Luna's performance wasn't at all convincing. I was kind of bored with how he carried his character and could barely remember what he did in the movie.
I do remember, however, how badly he said the word no. Jyn, no! It's like a scene where she was on a platform and it blew up and he got concerned, so he was like, Jyn, no! I guess the Star Wars universe needed to tone down that word ever since two other characters overused them in a oh so dramatic fashion.
No!
Jin, no! Story-wise, this is really dark. But I appreciate it because it puts a face on the rebel soldiers who sacrificed everything for this mission. It's not just about the Jedis and the heroes and the Sith Lords. This movie highlights all the rebel soldiers that fought in this war too. Doesn't have to always be about the Jedis.
Star Wars A New Hope put everything into action while telling the story from a whimsical perspective. Rogue One, however, cemented how devastatingly evil the Empire was and showed just how dedicated the rebels were towards winning. Even when the odds were against them and they faced a high chance of dying, Jin and the others were going to give it their all as long as there was a small glimmer of hope. There wasn't a generic "the hero must win so they can live happily ever after." These are heroes who sacrificed everything for a better tomorrow, whether they were going to be a part of it or not.
The special effects, of course, were top-notch, with just one little gripe, just a teeny gripe.
Tron Legacy was one of the first movies to introduce the facial reconstruction technology. It was used to make Jeff Bridges look the way he did years ago, soon after the first Tron took place, as well as make a clone named Clue that looks exactly like him throughout the movie. While impressive to look at, it was still clear that his character was CG. Rogue One was close to achieving this realistic makeover with Princess Leia's appearance at the end, but almost took a step back when it came to Grand Moff Tarkin. Yes, we knew it was him, but his face seemed like it came from a Star Wars PS4 game. It was fun having him in the movie, but man was his face distracting.
The soundtrack was originally orchestrated by Alexander Desplat, but due to the sudden reshoots and the awkward scheduling, Alexander had to be replaced by Michael Giacchino, to which he only had 4 weeks to orchestrate the whole movie. Damn!
This explains a lot about the score, since while it sounded good at times, it also felt a little weak. It's like I got the feel of Star Wars as I listened to it, but it almost felt like it wasn't enough. It's definitely the weakest score compared to other films, but it's not necessarily due to not having John Williams as the composer. With only 4 weeks to make it work, it's a miracle they got something on there.
There are a few other gripes I had to go over, one of them being it's a minor one, it's just one of the cameos that happened in the movie. I mean, you have your 3 characters that had to be in there no matter what, which was Tarkin, Darth Vader, and Leia, so they didn't really feel out of place. They were scripted in there pretty well.
Seeing the same actor return as Leia's father was pretty cool, since we get to see how serious he was with the Rebel Alliance. Not to mention, it's a heartwarming touch when we see him smile as he speaks of his assurance over his daughter's reliance. Seeing the 2 ruffians from episode 4 was pretty funny, but the one cameo shot I really thought was pointless was C-3PO and R2-D2.
Is it part of some sort of Star Wars contract to put C-3PO and R2-D2 in everything? Because that's just how it feels. Think about it, they're in everything Star Wars related.
All of the movies, all of the TV series, all of the video games, and even the holiday special. My god, it really feels like they have to be in everything. I wouldn't have minded seeing them run across the hallway at the end of the movie, but they're at the Rebels fort just having a conversation before they have to escort Princess Leia. Was that necessary? No. Did it add anything to the movie? No. So yeah, while the other cameos were pretty cool, this one really bugged me.
And another minor gripe I had is the forced puns in there. They slipped in, it's a trap. Not sure if it was intentional or not, but Saw said it. It's a trap. Bonus points for nostalgia.
Remember Star Wars? Remember Chewbacca? I remember Chewbacca. Chewbacca wasn't in Rogue One, but I remember that.
Overall, this is a Star Wars movie you have to see. It takes the subject matter and treats everything in the story, from the philosophy to the emotions, seriously. We're not watching a typical Star Wars movie with the guns going pew 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 and the lightsabers going year year year. Star Wars! Rogue One accomplishes everything that Star Wars is about and more. It keeps the spirit of the Star Wars philosophy alive while giving us a brand new perspective and a much darker tone, but in a good way. I love this movie. I can't believe how much I love this movie. To me, it is the second best Star Wars movie I've ever seen. I plan on watching it again and again. For my girl, Jen Urso, proof that a female Star Wars character doesn't have to be a freaking Mary Sue. She just has to be believable, relatable, and real. That's what Jyn is. So if you want to see a good Star Wars movie, we highly recommend this one. Pop Spectrum gives Rogue One, a Star Wars story, 4 pops out of 5. It's not perfect, but it's one hell of a Star Wars movie. This is Robin from Pop Spectrum. Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like, favorite, and comment on this video, as well as subscribe to Pop Spectrum. Thank you for watching!